blessings in the name of the Most High. How's everybody doing today? Well, I'm good. Cold, but I'm good. Yeah, you gotta remember something, people. In this world, in this life, because of your love in Christ and who you are truly, that light that shines bright within you, nobody wants you to be able to succeed on any level, small or great. Nobody. Even the people who celebrate these fraudulent holidays, these pagan holidays, and their would-be spirit that goes along with it, they don't want you to succeed. You know, they'll act like they're helping you. You know, they'll disguise it under the guise of help, but it's really not even help. You know, you've seen people help straight pieces of dung, you know, and it's not even that you really even need the help, you know, but, and I mean help like, you know, not in a handout, just a way to, you know, another way, just extra employment, if you will. You already got the deck stacked against you. Everybody already knows it also. That's why they be so amazed at how you're, you know, you bobbing and weaving through all of the madness. You know, it's utterly insane at the end of the day. People that are not even worth the sweat off of your sack. You know, they get all the assistance, they get all the help, you know. Also they can live that quote unquote American dream. And then all the so-called other races of people, you know, why do you think they are so good? You know, as evil as they are, why do you think they are so good and well off? Because they help one another. They understand economics, you know. Our people don't understand squat diddly. Because if they did, they'd get off their high horses and take a page out of the book of some of these other would-be so-called races of people. And it's crazy, you know, that our people, beings that have created literally everything in this life, every major invention, you know, and then they erase the truth behind it, but yet we are on the bottom of the totem pole like maggots, you know, treating each other like crabs in a bucket. And then we look at people like Floyd Mayweather, individuals like that who do nothing for the community. You know, they might do, you know, things for other communities, if you know what I mean, but they'll never do anything for their own community because, for one, the powers that be will not let them. They're not gonna let them, because it goes against the oath that they signed up for their little smidgen of riches. You know, their little would-be level of smidgentry of riches that they gotta go and do all this nasty stuff to accumulate and to maintain. They gotta go man on man, you know. They gotta go Johnson bobbing. You know what I mean? They gotta drink urine. Like, this is not me just sitting up here being speculative. This is a fact. And if you go and if you go and research what these people have to do to maintain that lifestyle, you know, they got to go to these eye wide shut type parties You know, they got to do all these things to accumulate and to maintain their level of riches. And then we look at these people like they are just, oh man, they got that bread, they got that money. Nah. That money pales in comparison to the level of money of the Rothschild family. You know, who knows if anybody even, you know, by this point in life, everyone should know who the Rothschilds are. You know, these are international bankers running the show behind the scenes. While we think Bill Gates got all the money, no, it's the Rothschild family, evil as they are. Straight satanic worshipers. That's all it is. These people print off money. They got all the gold, the silver, the onyx, everything you can think of. They got it coveted, you know, because they've pledged their allegiance. You got it, buddy, to Samael. And that's the only way that you can get rich in this life. You got to pledge your allegiance to Satan. I mean, think about it. What did Samael do? He presented that offer to Christ, Yeshua Mashiach. He showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment's of time. That's power. You know, did Christ do it? Heck to the heck no. He didn't do it. He turned that offer down because he understood what the acceptance of that offer truly means. You got it, Johnny. Smoking hot derriere. So, you know, we got to be willing to be there for one another. We got to be willing to help one another. You know, we're the only race of people that don't believe in that. But then we sit up here and act like we got long paper. And in all actuality, you got mere crumbs. Especially when compared to people like that who's running the show for real on a real level. They know how to keep. You know, they know how to hand down to the next generation and build. Our people have no idea about that. You know, all you gotta do is get online, listen to some of the things that people talk about. You know, we're so self-absorbed, and then now, and then especially the ones who act like they following Christ, you know, but greedy as all get out. You know, not everybody, but enough of them are doing it, and it's just insane at the end of the day. Now, we can't be there for our fellow brethren ever. And I mean ever. It's crazy. They'll make a suggestion though. A suggestion that they know is just, not only is it unacceptable, but it's next to near impossible, depending upon the situation that an individual has going on. You know? Like I said, there's a faction of us out here who has to live under specialized conditions because the deck has been stacked against us majorly. You know, that's just the truth. And it's crazy that they have to employ all these tactics, all to attempt to keep you contained, all because that light that shines bright within you. They want you to be sad. They want you to give up. You know, they just want you to be all around pathetic, and you're not gonna let that happen. And they mad about that. So, they can keep on trying and they gonna keep on failing. And like I said, all you gotta do is peep the game of what people are out here talking about. That's all you gotta do. Listen to the words that are coming out of people's gullet. What are they talking about? What are they discussing? Is it anything that's gonna be beneficial to the growth and the development on a real level of spirituality? Or is it a mere gimmick to fatten up their pockets? You got people talking chosen ones lingo, and they ain't going through nothing. They pretending to go through everything that those of us are really going through for this on a real level. They ain't going through anything. Their pockets are steadily increasing. That money steadily bubbling up out of their own gullet. They telling you they got multiple businesses, they entrepreneurs, yada da, yada da, so on and so forth. That's all they talk about. It's never about trying to accumulate souls to the Most High, ever. It's never about that. It's never about that. And it's crazy. Because if you was really on that level for real, you would be subjected to the same level of scrutiny that a faction of us are being subjected to right now here in the present. These people they're not going through, they're not being scrutinized. They're not going through anything. They're bubbling up. You know what I mean? They got racks on racks, like the song, right? Because that's all they care about. But hey, that's all fine and to the dandy. You know why? You got it. You already know who their allegiance is truly. They got that Pharisee spirit. This is not about being judgmental. See, people are always so quick to spew this, you're being judgmental. Judge not lest ye be judged. Because they don't want to hear the facts. People who are quick to spew that when it's not a situation of that magnitude is because they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth at all. All they want to do is sit up here and pretend, be pretendinators. That's all they know how to do. How y'all doing, man? Gotta speak to the animals, We love the animals. Animals will help you. Anyway, these people are pretendinators. They sit up here and, if you're a true chosen one, right? Yeah. Yada da. And then they'll just start spewing off a whole bunch of things that, is catchy to the ear. But in reality, they're Pharisees. They've been inserted in different platforms and arenas to destabilize and to keep to keep an ear to the ground as to who is about what and who is really living that for real. That way they can plan and organize and destroy, or attempt to anyway. They'll get on there and put on their Oscar award winning performance, acting like they're having such a down day. Person who's really going through this, there's no reason to present yourself in such a manner. You got a bright light that shines within you. Well, why be down? Because when it's all said and done, you're going to be all right anyway. Because the Most High is going to protect you anyway. So, these are just mere gimmicks. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy that, there's not enough exposure being brought to the forefront, and then you'll have then you have another class of individuals. Well, are we really supposed to be exposing people? Why not? It's not about self-exaltation. You got to know what to stay away from. There's babes in Christ out here. You know, the differential between meat and milk. You know, it might be something that sounds catchy to the ear, and it's nothing but a worldly ideology mixed with spirituality, all concocted for your destruction. Now, how in the world are you going to know to stay away from that being a beginner with this? You know? The times that we're currently in, these are the times of evil. This is a time of immense deception. And this is a time of pretendinators. Because at the end of the day, that faction of us who's really going through and living this, don't nobody have our back. No one has our backs. It's just a bunch of pretending going on. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to be there for you when you truly need them to be. It's always an excuse or a reason as to why they can't be there for you. But yet when they call on you though, you always there. You ready to jump right dead middle in the fire for them. Because you're real. They know that. That's why they know they can depend on you when it's time to call upon you. You know? So you got to be careful out here. You got to use discernment. You got to know and understand who's got your best interest and who doesn't. Everyone's not evil towards you, but enough people are. You know, especially if they're in constant pursuit of that American dream that never really truly was. They'll sell you out for those kibbles and bitlets. You better know it. They will sell you out for those kibble and bitlets. Bitlets meaning a smidgen of bits. That's just what it is. You know, you'll get no love where you really truly from. You'll get more love in places that you're not from than you ever will in the town in which you're from. I mean, look what happened to Christ. And then they want to put more on our people than what's really deserved. You know, his fate ultimately was suffered at the hands of the Romans. But that's where that deception comes in at, and they just want to blame us. You know, like they always do. Like they do with the slavery stuff. Well, slavery's been going on since way back then. It's not a color thing. It's not a so-called quote-unquote race thing. It's about knowing who everybody truly is, Bible-wise. The names in which the Most High God employed for everyone. That's what matters. That's what we need to get back to. You know, we all need to open our word and get well versed in it. And gain true knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Study these ancient cultures of the world. Study what's really been going on, so you'll have a clear understanding of what's really good, of what's really been going on, what's really been, you know, what's really been up. Instead of adhering to all this fraudulency, sheer fraudulency. Yeah. So y'all gotta understand, you know. We are in the time of the Judas experiment. And like I continue to state, every time I hear anyone discuss anything about the current city that I'm in, all they say is, you never see people anymore. And it's not like this is a small town like that either. You know, in fact, the population has probably been as big as it's ever been. You know, even when it was at the height, it doesn't even compare to now. You know, it's so much, this place is so different than the town I grew up in. You know, this is so beyond what I once knew. You know, but Lord willing, my stay here won't be too much longer. It's time to move on and go back to where I'm truly needed at, and where I can really make a difference and do some things. Because a place like this, where everything is based on deception, based on ninja type tactics, you know, like it's not a place to be. You know, family don't be there for anybody. You know, kids don't come around, grandkids don't come around, but everybody got that handout. Everybody want to be exalted, or they want their day to be acknowledged. Every time they call, it's because they want something, and they up here getting in trouble, doing stuff, you know. Then you try to put their boots on, you know, but then no one wants to allow you to do it the way it needs to be done to break the curses. And then people want to cry, oh, I got three brothers and blah blah blah. Brothers that they've never been there for. You know, because we're so busy seeking the would-be so-called American dream that never was. So, you know, no one's ever going to be there for anybody in these times. It's just not the case. You know, you can't even you can't even look for work or anything from anybody, because they're not going to do it. You know, like I said, some of us have the deck stacked against us majorly, or it's virtually impossible to even move around, really. So staying in shape has to be prioritized so that you can get around and get to where you need to go. But everybody's gonna have their day in the end. You know, people that could have been there and wasn't, you know, everybody's gonna have their day at the end. You know, you gotta remember that. So we can't worry about the small things, because at the end of the day, you know, either you about it or you're not. And hellfire awaits, you know. So we all got to stay in prayer and stay in repentance, because none of us are perfect, not even close, nor will we ever be. That's why we have to constantly, we got to put the work in and recognize people by their fruits, and understand that no one ever is going to be there for you, ever. They'll pretend like they was just for recognition, and then they'll turn around and they'll take a crap on you, a liquefied one on top of that. An extra special messy one, you know. So that's what it is. With that said, y'all have a fabulous day. Stop attaching yourselves to pagan worship. It's not right. You know? Can't say you wasn't warned, because I'm warning you now. And you should already, by this time in life, Y'all know everything else. Y'all depend on AI for everything else. So understand it for what it truly is. Move accordingly. With that said, God bless you all. Shalom.